Welcome to this new podcast. My name is Marcelo Magalhães Pinto, and this is a podcast produced by Luzeiro Musical Lab. Today, I have the honor to interview one of the greatest saxophone players I have ever met, Mr. Doug Stone, who was my colleague at Eastman School of Music. I met him in 2010. He was taking his master degree there, and we had the opportunity to play together for the music school as well as for professional activities such as jazz festivals and normal gigs for musicians. So Doug, thank you so much for being here, for giving me this interview.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Marcelo, and it's so great we get to play together this week,
yes.
too.
We had a hiatus of 10 years, and now we are recording this podcast from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We are here to record our new album, which we will talk later about that. So, Doug, this podcast is mainly to discuss things about music, art in general, issues related to performances, and I would like to know something about you concerning your side as a professor, one of your many facets as a professor. So it relates to building a repertoire. So how do you approach this? How does it reflect the way you play? I mean, differences of intonation according to the repertoire you are playing, or the importance of rhythmic knowledge for you to play correctly what you... I'm not saying about reading notes, but more related to know the style, the rhythmic values of the style, and the importance of speaking the right language to a specific style. What can you tell me about that?
I think that question covers a lot of territory, a lot of important territory. And so I like how you framed it in terms of my work as a teacher, because I think that when we start learning music, I don't think that we say to ourselves, as a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, I can't wait to teach this someday, right? We're thinking about how do we play the music at the highest level that we can possibly play based on the situation we are in. And so now that I'm in the education world and working with students who are trying to develop their abilities to give them the opportunity to play with people, which is the ultimate goal, right? I think about the material that I've learned, different, like you talked about, different styles, different types of repertoire, and how I learned that, and what are the key elements of each of those styles to study, to learn, to work on. I had an interesting experience during teaching one of the classes that I taught online during COVID, where we were kind of working together as a class to come up with what we need to work on, what should be included in the syllabus. And the students said, before we do this, they asked me what I thought were the main takeaways from this class. And that thought of what are the main takeaways, what points do I want students to walk out of this class or this set of lessons or this semester or their degree with, what are the main points? And so as you're asking this question, I'm thinking about what those main points might be. So because of where I start as a musician and a teacher, which is jazz, I think that there's a core repertoire of tunes that, and this is something that I think is kind of from Harold Danko a little bit, who was one of our teachers. The idea that there are standards, Tin Pan Alley songs from show tunes, that sort of thing. So that would be tunes like There Will Never Be Another You, or All the Things You Are, or How High the Moon, or East of the Sun, or Gone with the Wind. Then you have a category of jazz originals, right? Tunes by the great composers. So Stablemates, or Along Came Betty by Benny Golson, or Monk's Dream or Rhythmaning by Thelonious Monk, or Ornithology and Confirmation by Charlie Parker. And these tunes fit in the jazz originals category. And within either jazz standards or jazz originals, I think the stylistic idea comes into play, and it's in different ways. Because if you're playing a Charlie Parker melody, or if you're playing, a bebop head, or if you're even playing a melody by Benny Golson, like we mentioned, or even Thelonious Monk, there's kind of a way that, or Horace Silver, there's a way that melody should be played, and it's the way that it was recorded on the record. You don't really take liberties when you're playing Nika's Dream. You don't really take liberties when you're playing Confirmation. You don't really take liberties when you're playing Killer Joe. There's a way that you play these tunes. Song for My Father. But then, and so the style is kind of built in, right? If you study bebop heads, the style is built into those melodies. So a great way to learn the vocabulary of bebop and of improvising from the bebop period forward is to learn Ornithology and Groovin' High and Moose the Mooch and Yardbird Suite and Confirmation and Donna Lee. And maybe, like Half Nelson. Doesn't all have to be Charlie Parker tunes, right? And you take these melodies and you say, well, here's how the bebop lines work. And the style and the phrasing and the articulation, it's directly there in the recordings. Then if you take the jazz standard repertoire, I think that poses a bigger challenge. Because if you look at a lead sheet of There Is No Greater Love, for instance, you're going to see da 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 da. Now I think we could go and look up recordings of There Is No Greater Love on YouTube right now from Sonny Rollins plays it as a ballad, or Gene Ammons and Sonny Stitt, or I think there's an Ahmad Jamal version. We could look up versions of these great jazz players playing that melody, and I guarantee you it's not going to be quarter notes for 8 measures, right? Yeah. And so at that point, you have to take what you've maybe stylistically learned from playing the bebop melodies and apply those concepts to make your own rhythms, to play those melodies in a characteristic rhythmic style. But probably even more useful than doing that is to listen. And if you can play those melodies that on the page are quarter notes as far as the eye can see, but if you play and interpret them like the great players, then that, I think, not only is important because that's how you're going to play with other people, but you begin the process of improvising at that point. Even what you're playing on the melody is improvising. It's also going to inform the way you articulate and phrase when you're playing a big band piece or when you're playing somebody's original music. And also, along the lines of this repertoire situation, I think where you have standard tunes, that you learn, it's also important to think about what are the stylistic elements where you live, where you might be able to make some money. So being able to play a good solo on a trad jazz piece, trad jazz tune, is important here. Being able to play a good solo on Mustang Sally or Proud Mary is a worthwhile, useful financially important skill in the part of the world where I live, I have a feeling that you probably spend some time playing some different Brazilian styles, folk styles, or, Brazilian pop styles, whatever you're doing. And all of those things are valuable for you to learn and have their own unique style and articulation and feel. And with each, and I guess I'll wrap this up by saying, with each one of those things, you have an opportunity to learn, to dig in to a stylistic concept. Whether you think that it's important or valid, it would be easy for somebody to say, Doug, you go out and play Proud Mary and what was the other tune I mentioned? Mustang Sally. Yeah, of course I do that, because there's something about that music that I enjoy and is important to me, and it entertains people. That style is important to me, and I've learned a lot about how to, play with other people and make and construct solos that fit a specific style by doing all those things. I hope that kind of touches on your question a little bit.
Amazing.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I think concerning. You gotta know where you are playing to, right? I mean, bebop has a certain language that does not fit ragtime period.
Right.
So it's pretty much, you have to know the tradition, right?
And I also think that, that maybe that is even something I neglected from your question in terms of, I was just doing a comparison with a student recently of Michael Brecker and Chick Corea's duet version of Confirmation and the Charlie Parker version of Confirmation. And I said, look at these two solos, and the places where Michael Brecker is playing thirds and playing arpeggios and outlining the harmony, those same key notes are the same key notes that Charlie Parker was playing, The guide tone lines are the same no matter what era you're playing them in. And that stylistic element from learning those tunes, learning that period, was part of Michael Brecker's language from the time he learned it, no matter if he's playing with the Brecker brothers or if he's, swinging on a rhythm changes. There's this universal kind of bebop language. If you want to play the melodies on the standards right, there's a language and a style to do that. And honestly, if you're playing, you could play the same tune in a trad, you could play All of Me in a trad environment, and the melody's going to get phrased one way, and then you could play it in a more modern jazz environment, and the phrasing is going to be slightly different. And it comes from listening and being sensitive to the stylistic elements, the articulation, the feel, the lengths of the notes. I'll say one more thing on this. One time I was playing a concert in, I think I was in Pittsburgh or maybe Philadelphia, but we were playing, and all of a sudden somebody said, hey, Joe Lovano is here in the club. And of course, me and the other saxophone player got really excited. And we asked Joe what he thought about how we were playing, or if he had any advice or, thoughts for us. And he said, play with a good sound, strive for tone. He said, strive for tone and watch the length of your notes. And that stuck with me so much, the length of my notes. And I think about that all the time when somebody's playing a melody and, you just held that note too long on the end of that phrase. That's not the way that we do it stylistically.
That's great, Doug. And the second question has a certain relation with the previous subject. We are talking today at lunch about how fortunate we are today that we have access to so many things just by a click, which is really good. We can see things, in our case, music from all over the world, which is amazing, don't you think?
Yes.
But at the same time, it seems that nothing is retained as deep as our teacher Harold Denko
Yeah.
used it to retain things. So, what can you say for students concerning the importance of tradition when learning the jazz, and how can they apply this? Because sometimes people, I have the impression that they think that, oh, this is old or this is outdated.
Right.
I mean, Johann Sebastian Bach, he was considered a outdated guy at his time. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel students have the same impression about the music that paved the way for us today. So what can you say to these people?
So I think there's kind of two pieces of what you mentioned there. And one thing that we were talking about is it is kind of a wondrous time we live in, that we have access to any kind of music from around the globe at any time of day at the click of a button. But when we think of the greats, and what comes to mind to me is actually a scene from the movie A Great Day in Harlem, where they talk about that photograph that was taken of all the jazz greats in Harlem. And Horace Silver is talking to Benny Golson, and Horace Silver is standing in a staircase, or maybe talking about being this something having to do playing along with the Lester Young recording, and standing in the staircase of his house because he liked the way that he was playing tenor at that time, the way that the tenor resonated. And I think it's important to remember that at that time, these people who we love and think, they made such an impact on the musical world, they bought one record at a time. Even to walk into a room where there was an unlimited amount of records, Harold's office or a record store or even my record collection, probably most of the greats at a certain time period didn't even have access to that much recorded music. And so what they did is they took the one record and they learned everything about that record. And then when they had money to buy another record, they did the same thing. And now we're in a period where life is just overwhelming. Just the sheer amount of access we have to each other, the amount of access we have to the media, it's overwhelming. And one of the ways to overcome this is to think like these the musicians from days gone by, who listened to one record at a time and focused on learning one solo at a time. No, you don't need to fill your phone or your iPod with all the music in the world. You need to take Miles Davis' Kind of Blue and be able to sing all the solos. You need to take Hank Mobley's Soul Station and be able to sing all the solos. And if you just do that, when Dave Liebman talks about transcription, he has a very detailed process. But he says you only need to do that with a few solos. Because if you pick the right solos, you've got everything you need. There's a Sonny Stitt solo on Tune Up where I use the phrases on that to help students learn bebop lines and phrases. And there are like 39 or 40 2-5-1 phrases in that one solo. If you learn all those 2-5-1 phrases in all 12 keys, you don't need to learn any more. You're covered, So I think that I just basically, when I have a student say, I don't want to learn this or that because I think it'll affect me from doing my own thing, I think you always have to go back to the fact that if you're doing your own thing without any kind of context around it, there will be no depth. And my goal as a person, as a musician, as a teacher, as a father, as a husband, is to have some depth, to think about things, to build on things, to build on the people who I look up to. Can you imagine leading a family as a dad if you've never seen anyone lead a family as a dad, Because even that instinct we have, I think, comes from being around this thing. Or can you imagine, what if somebody was going to coach a basketball team and they'd never seen another coach a basketball team? It would be chaos, you know? So for me, no matter where you want to go, there's certain fundamentals that have to be in place, you know? And that's how I teach and that's how I think. Now, there are probably other people who do other things, but I believe in the fundamentals.
No, that's great, Doug. And would you mind telling here, in order to be recorded, what you said for me at lunch about the class you had last summer with
Tony Malaby.
Yeah.
So one of my saxophone heroes and I think one of the greatest improvisers today is saxophone player Tony Malaby. And over the summer, I took a few lessons with him. And I have to admit that I have not been able to work on the material he gave me to the level I would like to. But one of the things that really hit me was Tony said to me, just to make sure that I was listening to good music, reading good books, and I think good is the key, listening to good music with depth, with the spirit of true improvisation, with meaningful rhythmic elements. Read books that are good books, that make you think, that make you work a little bit, you know, good literature, and watching good movies. And, you know, I think I had a high school English teacher that would always say, well, you can't use the word good because that's a moral judgment, you know. So good here meaning things with depth, things with quality. So now I'm going to use probably the most wide-ranging example I could. But if I have the opportunity to sit on my phone and scroll through TikTok or watch some Stanley Kubrick, I think it's a no-brainer on what you should do. If you have the opportunity to put your phone on random on the Mumble Trap station, which there's nothing wrong with that, or listen to a Charlie Parker record, if you want to get into some musical depth, you have to make the choice. You have to fight, you know, the desire to be pulled towards maybe what you might think of as the lowest common denominator. But we also talked about the fact that the lowest common denominator is probably more easy to access now than any time in the history of the world. You turn your phone on and you can immediately be drawn into things that don't fit the category of good music, good books, good movies.
That's right. Thank you so much, Doug. And a quick question about intonation. I remember during Bill Dobbins' class, he mentioned a lot about the way saxophone players specifically use it to play some vibrato at the end of phrases, and that nowadays it doesn't happen so often with big bands. What do you think about this?
Now, I don't know if you realize this as a piano player, but this is a pretty loaded question in terms of jazz pedagogy and of the people I know. So I would say, I don't know if I would go as far to say as there's a camp or a school of people, but there's people who I know who, and you can hear it in their playing, they just don't use vibrato. And of course, this goes back to, have you heard the story about Miles Davis? Miles Davis went into a lesson with his teacher when he was a young kid, and he was using vibrato, and the teacher said, don't use vibrato, you're going to shake enough when you get old. And so the idea of controlling that vibrato has become very important in certain styles with certain people. And then, Bill Dobbins is definitely an example of someone, and he has a friend, an alto player, who teaches at the New School, Dave Glasser. Dave Glasser plays, I think he played with the Basie Band a little bit, and Glasser is on the opposite end of the spectrum from what I've heard and how I've heard him work with big band sections and stuff. He's looking for vibrato and moving the sound through some of these techniques. And I think that for me, you basically just have to know where you are and who you're playing with and what situation you're in. So if I am going to New Orleans to play with my Dave Pell Octet type band that I have, there will probably, and I'm playing a ballad feature, that would be a very appropriate place to use some vibrato. If I am playing, an original composition, modern, heavy improvised style with long notes, I will probably err on the side of not using any vibrato, because that's kind of the appropriate thing for that stylistic deal. So I think the way that I operate is I want to be a chameleon. I want to keep getting the calls I'm getting. And the way that I do that is to be in the gig, be in the music in the appropriate way. Now you're going to make me think tonight as we play our tunes where I'm choosing to use vibrato, because like on my tunes, I don't even know. But there are players, like a modern player like Dave Liebman, now he'll use pretty heavy vibrato, So I think at some levels it's a personal choice, but I think that you also need to do it in a controlled way. You cannot just use vibrato for this, because some people use vibrato and they don't even know that they're using it.
Yeah.
You have to be able to control that. That's a great question.
Thank you.
Very interesting question.
So basically, this is a matter of choice.
I think so.
And stylistic to fit in.
Yeah, being
inside
idiomatic.
Idiomatic.
Yeah.
Good. Being an American jazz musician, how do you see Brazilian music?
I have to say that I have never, whenever Brazilian music has come up, either in terms of playing it or talking about it or being aware of it, I have never met someone in the States who plays jazz who is not fascinated by all things Brazilian music. Now, I personally have not dug into it as some I've known. I mean, Harold Danko has really dug into it. There are even people who do complete records of Brazilian music. I think Quinn Sternberg, our bass player, seems to have really studied it quite a bit. He knows some of the different feels and that. I think that so I played with some great Afro-Cuban players in Rochester, and one time they said something that it kind of hit me hard. I was saying, wow, this music is very complex to play, and when I'm improvising, I want to make sure I'm with the clave and playing appropriately. And I said something to the effect of, this is nothing like the jazz that I play, that I know, that I deal with, that I grew up with. And one of the guys said, no, it's more rhythmic. And as a person who has studied and worked and taught the rhythmic side of jazz music for my entire life, having somebody refer to another style of music as being more rhythmic than what I do, it hit me. And then I started thinking about that. And the way that you deal with rhythm in a few, certain, maybe even 2 or 3 other styles of music, other than, the kind of straight ahead swinging jazz I play, I think that's the first thing that I notice. I'm a rhythmic kind of a thinker. I'm interested in making sure my improvising and the way I play tunes and melodies and stuff is rhythmically appropriate. And so obviously, with Brazilian music, to me, that's the first thing that comes across. Am I playing appropriate to the rhythmic context? Oh, have you ever seen, there's a video on YouTube of Jobim and Jerry Mulligan. And Jobim's trying to teach Jerry Mulligan how to play the melody of One Note Samba. Oh, yeah. And Jerry Mulligan can't play that ending. I don't know if he ever does it right in the whole video. And that's what I feel like when I play other styles. And so there's that. I also find the harmonic material. You gave me a lot of music to check out. We were talking about that at one point. And the harmonies, it's like they're almost jazz, but then here and there's a chord that you can't really negotiate by just playing the bebop scale. And probably almost in every tune I've played, right? Like, okay, I got this. Whoa, this moved in a very different way. Or, whoa, now this is saying, E over G sharp, or E over G sharp, and I don't think playing a bebop scale is going to be appropriate here, And that is another level that it fascinates me. I think the forms, too, are really interesting to jazz players because we're so used to playing 32, 12, 16. And when we get into these longer forms, it's new territory for us. And pacing your solos. Yeah, everything I've ever heard, there's something about it that I think we respond to with our foundation, our musical foundation as American jazz musicians,
Awesome. Thank you. And the last question. We are here in Baton Rouge to record our new album, which is called Shifting Perspectives. And for me, the outcome of this album is really interesting because even though I'm writing Brazilian music, you and Queen, you are writing American, native jazz music, really, I think they are so connected with each other. For me, it was a privilege to be part of this project. What can you say about the disc, especially your tunes?
So, I struggle writing for chordal instruments, and I have tunes that have chords and harmony. I think some of my best tunes are tunes that I've written for groups without piano or guitar. And so I knew that the material that you were going to bring in for this was going to be harmonically deep. You're a piano player. You can't avoid that. And so I have been doing a couple of things recently that have come up over the last couple of years where I knew it was coming up and I knew I needed tunes. And I would hit a roadblock. And there's actually one project I'm involved in that we're just doing old tunes of mine. Some have never been recorded, but I wasn't. All the other guys wrote new material, and I didn't. And so I had some idea. I would love to write tunes that were as harmonically deep as Dave Liebman's tunes. I just think that is kind of the epitome of deep harmonic sounds and melodies that grow from such a unique melodic place within that harmony. I'm never going to get there, but that was kind of on some of these tunes, like, how can I do that? And Harold Danko always wanted to see a full like piano reduction of the piece. And so I thought, okay, if Marcelo's coming, I need to have actual piano parts, not just chord symbols on all of these. And so that was something that pushed me into a certain area. And the cool thing is we've actually been able to turn some of those things into freer kind of sections, building on whatever I so that's kind of part of my identity, as a composer, I think. I think the other great element about this is the fact that we never have played together before as an ensemble with Quinn and Andre until Monday afternoon. And it's Wednesday right now, and we record on Friday. And this is the beauty. There's a little language barrier even, right? And that will never be known through listening to this music. This to have people from a whole different culture, whole different part of the world get together and be able to make this product. I think that regardless of the inside baseball music stuff, that is one of the neatest things about what we do. And I know that we will be able to continue doing this, and we'll take this music to Brazil, and we'll bring it back here, and we'll take it wherever we can take it. And I think it's such a great representation of, people coming together with a similar vision, but with different musical heritage. And the product is a beautiful reflection of something that could not happen otherwise. It could just happen with us at this time, in this place,
That's right. All right. Thank you so much, Doug, for this wonderful interview. I will put your Instagram, all your social media links.
Okay.
And thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon in Brazil.
Likewise. Thank you, Marcelo.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Oh, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.